Your repeat purchase rate is bad because you're sending the same email to everybody. So the person who just spent $150 with you yesterday and the person who's been on your email list for 8 months both get the same email. 15% off discount code. One of them was probably never going to use it. The other person didn't even need it. So this isn't an acquisition problem. This is a retention problem. And it starts with the segments that you're sending to. In 2026, the brands that are doing well with email are the ones who've realized that this broad spray and pray method is coming to an end. More companies are getting into email, and so therefore more and more emails are being sent, the inbox is getting crowded. And so the same way that there used to be very few ads that were running in comparison to today, back in 2016, 17, and you could sell flip-flops to, I don't know, to an Eskimo or something. You could sell anything on Facebook ads back in 2016 because there weren't so many people doing it. Email's going through the same maturation process right now, where the content that we're sending, you can't just send broad generic blasts to people because there's already so much of that going on. The content that you send in your emails needs to be hyper targeted if it's going to resonate with the person that you're sending it to. Otherwise, you're just going to get tuned out. So for a quick bit of context, my name is Jack Shaw. I run Surefire Media. We're an email and SMS marketing retention agency, and we work with Shopify brands that are doing multiple millions per month. So we work with a variety of different email lists, and most of them, the same thing is happening where the same emails are being sent every single time with usually one audience and one message, one campaign, one offer. And so this is exactly why customers don't come back and they don't buy from you again, because the messaging is too broad. So this video is going to cover how we think about segmentation, the architecture that we use, the behaviors that we track, the segments that matter the most, and why exactly we tend to look at psychology before we do behavior. The brands that figure this stuff out are the ones who are going to compound in the future, and the ones that don't are the ones that are going to plateau. All right, so we've got this segmentation guide here that I've created, and if you sign up to my email list at the description of this video, then you'll be able to get this guide for free. So sign up and you'll get access to this. Now, most brands, they tend to segment by what people did. So open the last email or didn't open the last email, or bought in the last 30 days or didn't buy in the last 30 days. This is just basic behavioral segmentation. So engaged, unengaged, bought, didn't buy, whatever. It's fine, but it's also kind of missing the point, which is that the behavior is telling you where somebody has already been in the past. It's not telling you where they're going in the future. Now, a customer who's bought once a couple months ago, and a customer who, or a person who's been on your email list and they've never purchased before, they've never made a single order, they can look identical in behavioral terms, but in reality, they need completely different emails. So they're in completely different mental states. Both of them, for whatever reason, have not purchased, but they just haven't, one of them hasn't purchased recently, the other one hasn't purchased at all. Those are completely different people. So the way that we tend to think about this at Surefire is with this 3-parent model. So everybody tends to sit in at least one of these 3 groups. You've got your non-customers, your customers, and then your lapsed customers as well. So non-customers is pretty straightforward. Those are the people who've never purchased. Your customers are the ones who've bought. Maybe they've got a relationship with you that's live at the minute, and you're deepening that relationship. Maybe they've bought once, maybe they've bought twice, maybe they buy all the time, maybe they're VIPs, or they fall into this bucket, which is that they've bought once or they've bought a few times. For whatever reason, they haven't been buying recently. So this is the whole architecture. Like I say, we've got the 3 parents, and then inside of each of these parents, you've got these little subsections, these what we call child segments. Now, if we start with the non-customers as an example, you'll see that each of these 3 different child segments here, they are each different people. They each require different approaches in order to actually get them to move down the funnel into the next stage. So if you imagine this is one big funnel, they start up here at the top at 1.1 dormant observers, and we're trying to get them down to here, roughly, the habitual buyers or VIPs, ideally. But that's the way that we're going. So they start off here with being dormant observers, where they've never meaningfully engaged, they've subscribed for a discount or out of curiosity or whatever, and they've been invisible since. So these are the people who they've signed up months ago, they've not really opened anything since. We call them dormant, and a discount isn't really going to get them, at least not the discount that you've already most likely offered. So they need a pattern interrupt. They need something that doesn't quite look like marketing in order to get them back into the funnel, to get them more interested, and then get them to become this, which is a curious evaluator. So these are the people who are actively evaluating the brand. They've still not purchased, but they're considering it. So they've browsed your store, they're opening emails, maybe they've clicked a few, and they're considering you alongside competitors. They're deciding, should I buy from this brand? Maybe they know it, maybe they don't know it, but that's what they're doing. So these people, again, don't really need a discount. They need proof that the product actually works. They are checking out your reviews, they're checking out your before and afters, they'll look at your founder stories. That's what these people are doing at this stage. Now you've got these people who are the reluctant considerers. So these are the non-customers who've got a clear purchase intent, but they're waiting for a discount. They've made their decision, but price is the blocker, and that's what's stopping them from moving on to actually becoming a customer. So you see here, there's two separate stages before a person even is going to be interested in a discount. And most people, most brands, if not all of them, start up here by blasting a discount to that person instead of recognizing that that person can't be bought with a discount. I say this all the time. There are some people on your email list that you could give them 99% off and they still wouldn't purchase, because it's not about the price. It's about, does this product do what I want? Do I actually want to order this thing? Do I want to have to pay for the shipping? Do I want to have to worry about the return if it doesn't do the thing that I need it to do? That's the problem with these people at the top. If you're constantly trying to blast discounts to people who are in these two stages, all you're going to do is cheapen your brand. You're not going to build any kind of affinity. You're not going to move these people further down. You need to nurture them and get them to this point before a discount is going to work. All right, the second parent segment is the customers. So there's varying different degrees of customers in your database. You've got your first time buyers, your second time, your habitual or repeat, and then you've got your VIPs as well somewhere in there. Now, inside of your customers, the segment that probably matters the most is your first-time buyers. At least this is where the most potential lies, and I think it's where most D2C brands are losing lifetime revenue. So those first 30 days, call it, after somebody purchases from your brand, the customer is looking to reinforce the decision, or they're not looking, but they want to know if they made the right decision, basically. Is it worth returning this product? Is it doing the thing that I actually wanted? Am I happy with my purchase? And what most brands that I've seen whenever I audit accounts or whenever I sign up to email lists and make purchases, what most D2C brands are doing in the first, even like few days after making that first purchase, is retargeting that person with yet another discount, another 20% off code right after they've just made their first purchase. Now, this isn't helping. I've seen it. Has it converted well? In some cases, it's done okay. Has it done anything drastic for the repeat purchase rates and the actual LTV of the customer that they've just made? No, I haven't seen any evidence for that. So all it does is cheapen the purchase that they've just made and signals that the brand is desperate for the next sale. I think the logic with this is that people seem to assume that the customer is warm at that point. They've made their first purchase and this is the best time to get them to place another. But when it comes to acquisition, maybe there's some merit to that logic. In my opinion though, I don't think it's the best way to approach retention, to approach lifetime value and repeat purchase and actually building a real relationship with that customer. So the right email for these customers after they've just become a customer for the first time is reassurance. It's how to use your product. It's why it exists. It's social proof from other recent buyers or the founder talking about why they made that product, the story behind it. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to build conviction in their first purchase before you then expect the second purchase. It's kind of like if you've ever eaten a certain meal, let's say you're eating, I don't know, some fruit or some vegetables or something, and then you start Googling the benefits of all the vitamins and all the minerals that you're getting from a certain vegetable or fruit that you're eating, then the food that you're eating, if it maybe fits something that you don't like. For example, you don't like, I don't know, bananas, but then you eat a banana and you find out there's loads of potassium and that potassium is really good for X, Y, and Z. Then you feel better about eating something that even you didn't really want to eat. It's kind of the same thing with this, where you're reaffirming that they've made the right decision, and email is the perfect channel for doing that. However, if you give them an immediate 20% discount right after they've just placed their first order, then all you're really teaching them is that the product they've just purchased could have been, it's like it's worth 20% less to them at that point. So you convert a customer into a second time customer and then they're in this stage. At this point, these customers are forming the habit. The fragile bridge state is still kind of active, but less so. You want to make sure that you're nurturing those customers and that you're building some form of relationship and that you're also maybe giving them some kind of freebies or some kind of exclusive into being a repeat customer. Again, we treat repeat buyers with a lot of respect, a lot of gratitude, because again, those are the people who are gonna hopefully become loyalists of your brand. Now, speaking of loyalists, this is a segment that does get ignored quite often, and usually, in my experience, the top 20% of customers by lifetime value usually are the ones who've bought 3 or 4 more times, and they're the most valuable group on the entire email list. In fact, there was one Black Friday we did for a brand a few years back, and like 80% of their revenue came from their VIP segment, which was 20% of their email list. So 20% made up 80% of the revenue. It's the Pareto principle in action. It was insane. So these people are usually the most valuable group on the entire list, and normally they're getting the same campaigns as everybody else. These loyalists, they don't need a 20% off code. They just need recognition. They just need early access. They just need a day where they see behind the scenes content of your brand, or some kind of signal that they're not just another email on the list. They're spending a lot of money with your brand. They're really bought into it. If you can show them how much you mean to them, they're going to want to stay more. So those are your habitual buyers, or your VIPs, let's call them. Now, there's a subsegment of those habitual buyers, which is this one here, 2.3b, and these are the ones who've recently stopped reading, or they've recently stopped engaging as meaningfully as they used to. This is a pre-churn signal. So this is something that you want to watch out for, to make sure that the people who are spending that money, the people who are constantly opening emails, constantly clicking, or constantly ordering, those people, if you notice a dip in one of those metrics, then alarm bells should be ringing for you, and you should be wondering, why is it? What's happened? Why do they no longer care about us as much as they used to? And that's what's going to help you then to figure out how you can get that customer back. And then finally, your single purpose buyers. So these are a little bit more difficult to convert than the usual, because they're usually one-off purchases. So things like gifts, or I don't know, maybe for whatever reason their relevance window has closed, and then their reason to buy again is not really so urgent or so easy to engineer than the regular customer that you've got. How to approach those buyers, it really does depend. You're going to have to try a variety of different angles. You could try cross-selling products. You can try targeting them a year later, around the same time when they purchased, for another gift, like come Father's Day, for example, or Christmas or whatever. Targeting them around those periods in the year based on what it is that they've purchased. So for example, if they've purchased, I don't know, they've purchased a t-shirt for men around Father's Day, then chances are they're buying that for a male figure in their life. So again, retargeting them with a similar angle around Christmas, or maybe around Valentine's Day, or whenever it may be throughout the year, birthday angles, etc. That could convince those people to buy. But again, those are really difficult to convert. It's just about trying things and seeing what works. The other lapse segment that is one of the most commonly mishandled are the lapsed customers who've also stopped opening. So the instinct is usually the same discount with those people, the we miss you, here's 15% off. It almost never works, because the problem isn't always price. The problem is that they've stopped thinking about you for whatever reason. So the fix is honesty before the offer. You want to make sure that, we've noticed that you've been quiet. Have we done something wrong? Or figuring out what it actually is that's made this person stop ordering. And it's usually not to do with price. Chances are you've already sent them other discounts. It may be that your product, there was something wrong with the product, or it wasn't quite what they expected. Again, if you're not handling that post-purchase process with care, and you're just focused on converting another sale as quickly as possible, it's going to turn people off. And so we find that one of the best fixes for a lapsed customer is to prevent them from even becoming that by nurturing them after the purchase, so that less people go through that lapsed customer process afterwards, because they've been handled so well after the post-purchase. So again, there's these few different different kind of like lapse territories here, where you've got the recently dormant, the people who've just crossed the lapse threshold. Again, you need to figure out what that is depending on your brand. We usually do it for 1.5x to 2x the natural repeat window. So if the natural window is about 30 days and then it's 45 to 60 days, then we'd consider that recently dormant. Again, long dormant is lapse for 2 to 3x that natural repeat window. So that could be 60 to 90 days. And then churned is anything beyond that. So that tends to be like 90 days plus, if you've got a 30-day rebuy schedule. So again, each one of those three needs a little bit of a different approach. These people may just need a reminder. They may need some kind of, content to remind them why that product that they've recently just bought is good and they need it back. These people are the ones who they have been dormant for a little bit longer. Again, it could be price that's been putting them off, so you can try something there. And then finally, you've got the churned, which are the ones who are quite far gone, unfortunately. And to really get those people back, it's a lot more of a struggle. Okay, another group of segments that we use are the engaged segments. Now, these are pretty common in most retention systems. So you've got your engaged 90 days, that's 0 to 90. So that's anyone who's engaged between 0 and 90 days ago. Then you've got people who've engaged between 0 and 30, and then 30 and 60 and 60 and 90. Usually we do 31 to 60 and then 61 to 90, etc. So the purpose of this is that you've got varying levels of engagement. You've got the people who engaged 30 days ago. You've got the people who've engaged between 30 to 60 days ago, and then 60 to 90. Each one of those groups represent a different level of engagement. You don't want to always be targeting people who've engaged in the last 90 days, because each group of engagement is a little bit different than the other. People who've engaged in the last 30 are much more interested and much more open to whatever it is that you're sending versus the people who engaged 60 to 90 days ago. In fact, 60 to 90 days are this close to becoming unengaged. So you want to make sure that the content that you're sending to each of those different engagement groups is a little bit different. So the 0 to 30 days, those people have the highest attention tier, the audience for their time-sensitive campaigns where the freshness matters the most. So flash sales, urgent announcement, flagship launches, etc. Then you've got these people who are somewhere in the middle. They're still paying attention, but they're cooling off. So again, these are good for soft re-engagement nudges. So something that is going to get that person to be re-interested in your brand. Maybe it's something to do with social media. Maybe it's something to do with what's coming in the future, building some kind of hype that's going to re-engage that interest. And then the final segment of engagement is the 60 to 90 days. So these people are this close to becoming unengaged. We tend to target this segment a lot more directly with more, let's call it clickbaity subject lines and things like that to catch people's attention before they slip into that category of fully unengaged, which is from 90 days plus. So we're trying to stop this segment from reaching that 90 days as much as we possibly can. And we'll do that in a variety of ways. Again, sometimes it comes across as a little bit clickbaity or a little bit eye-catching or a little bit out there more than usual. But again, these people are right on the verge of becoming unengaged and then we lose them forever. And so we tend to approach them way more different than we do these people here or in here. So again, you can see how the different levels of engagement will dictate what content and your approach to that content in terms of your copywriting and use of emojis and things like that. That will determine it depending on where they are in this engagement cycle. All right, then I want to talk about discounts really quickly. So a useful rule that comes out of all of this is that discounts work on people who already want the product. It's as simple as that. You'll notice that when you get 10,000 people to your website each month, but you only get 5% of people sign up to the discount in your sign up form, and then you only convert 10 to 20% of those people, you'll see that most people who come to your website, they don't go for that discount because they only work on people who want the product. And that should be your approach in all of these emails. Now, there's ways that you can determine who does and who doesn't want the product. I'm going to get to that in a minute, but that's the way that you should think about these discounts and when to use them. Don't use them on people who aren't convinced by the product yet. Then alternatively, when it comes to discounting towards your customers, if you're doing it, let's say to one of these habitual buyers who are loyal to you, they're buying frequently, then the discount will work, but it matters greatly on how you position that discount. So if you're positioning it as a kind of like mass market discount, site-wide discount to everybody else, it's not going to work so well for them, or they're not going to feel good about it. If you're making it exclusive and you're saying this is just for you because you've bought X times or you spent X amount or because you're one of our X product customers, then it's going to hit different for them. It's going to really work a lot better for that audience because they're going to appreciate it a lot more rather than just being putting some like net catch-all for everybody. And this is the reason why I think many brand owners have a negative view of email marketing, because they assume that it's just being signed up to some spam list where you get sent discounts. And the reason is because that's how businesses have approached it. But if you switch your segmentation strategy towards this and understand what each customer's psychology is, depending on where they are in this stage, and then you reverse engineer your emails around that, then you're going to build actual affinity, actual loyalty in your email list, and people are actually going to enjoy your emails, and you're going to stand out from the rest of the people who are doing that spam spray and pray approach. So to summarize then, if your repeat purchase rate is under 10-20%, and the problem is probably not your product, it's probably that your first time buyers are being treated the same as your non-customers, or your loyalists are being treated the same as everybody else. You know, your lapsed customers are being thrown discounts that don't work because they're not actually, their problem isn't price, that's not their objection. So that's the whole point of this video. The whole point of this guide is to make you aware of the different psychological states that each of these people who are on your list are in. And most people don't teach this. Most people don't even realize that there's more than one way to slice a customer versus a non-customer or a lapsed customer or somebody who's engaged. Each person has their own psychological state that they are in, and you need to meet them where they are in that psychological state if you want to get the action from them that you want. Now, the lift from fixing this isn't small. It's the difference between an email program that does 15 to 20% of its Klaviyo revenue from one that does 35 to 40% of its monthly Klaviyo revenue. It's the same list, it's the same products, it's the same volume of traffic, it's just a different segmentation, and that's the whole purpose of this video. And another thing that might be worth saying is that this isn't really about Klaviyo or any specific email marketing tool. It's literally just about your approach to the customer. It's how you think about the people that are on your list. These segments are just the architecture that makes the thinking show up in the content calendar that you send. So when we're creating email content calendars, we don't start with what do we want to send and who to. We reverse that and we start with who are we sending to and therefore what are we going to send them. And literally as soon as you've got this model in your head, the emails will start writing themselves. You'll know what mental state the reader is in and then what they need next. It just becomes logical. So that's it. That's everything for this video. Hopefully you've enjoyed. Now remember that most brands have a relevance problem that's dressed up as an acquisition problem. It's not the case that email doesn't work or that it's just a spray and pray channel. It's just that that's the way that most people treat it. But the way that email's moving in 2026 and beyond is that segmentation by psychology and not by their behavior is the fix. That's the thing that you want to be running with. Now in this guide that I've done, I've got obviously all of the different states here, all the different parent architecture, but more importantly, what's more important is how do you actually build these segments? What's the criteria for them? So inside of this guide, oh, I've also got this that I've not covered. Some exclusion segments there, you can check those out if you like, but later down in this guide, I've got how to actually build each segment. So for example, what the segment captures and then how to actually build that segment with the conditions inside of Klaviyo. So if you want this document so that you can not only see the psychology behind each customer segment that you've got, but also how to build them in Klaviyo, there's a link in the description to sign up to my email list so you can grab it there. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.